Welcome. Graduation on the Skirball campus is one of my favorite days of the year. The smiles, the families, the procession, the regalia, an aura of pride and accomplishment fills our open tent. We share the satisfaction that we've arrived, and we are ready for what's next. Today, our warmly anticipated ceremony coincides with Yom HaZikaron, Israel's National Memorial Day, a day which this year carries very fresh pangs of mourning in the enduring wake and trauma of October 7th. What does this juxtaposition ask of us? A day of celebration, of commencement and new beginnings, on a day of memorial, a day when we reflect upon profound loss. Jewish historians have offered different approaches to thinking about our past in relation to our present. Going back to the 1930s, Salo Whitmire Baron, who held the first ever professorial chair in Jewish history at a Western secular university, Columbia, boldly argued that it was time to let go of a Jewish narrative dominated by suffering, what he called the lachrymose conception of Jewish history. And one of Baron's students, Yosef Chaim Yerushalmi, also a renowned professor of Jewish history at Columbia, published in the 1990s one of the foundational works of Jewish historiography, which he titled Zachor, the Hebrew imperative to remember. Tracing millennia of Jewish historical memory, Yerushalmi asserted that the act of remembering is an insistence that we never forget. We remember our origins, our migration patterns, our travails, and our stories of overcoming. Processing and professing the nuance of what is new and yet not new at all is a daily practice in Jewish teaching and learning. On this day of commencement and memorial, we are living history and we are making history. Memory is not limited to how we tell the stories of the past and previous generations. How we craft the story of today to be remembered by future generations is our responsibility. Here at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, this balance of walking stridently with history on one shoulder and the future on the other is a defining feature of higher learning, of teaching, and of leadership. To our graduates and honorees today, you have committed your lives to the holy task of guiding others with a compass of timeless values, even and especially during times of challenge. You hold the heartbreak, the healing, and the hope all at once. We salute you. We share in the joy of your achievements today, even as we mourn those we have lost, pray for our hostages still in limbo, and reflect upon the sacrifices made. And to those in our community who are remembering loved ones today, we hold you close. May we draw inspiration and comfort from the words of Psalms, chapter 112. Zarach b'choshech or layesharim. A light shines in the darkness for those who are steadfast in goodness. Chanun v'rachum v'tzadik, gracious, compassionate, and committed to righteousness. Ki le'olam lo yimot lezecher olam yeh tzadik. Enduring, never to be shaken, those who are dedicated to ensuring goodness are remembered forever. May you find the light that shines in the darkness, holding the past with resilience and wisdom, today and tomorrow, shaping future memories with compassion and grace. Lezecher olam. May the memory of those we have lost forever inspire us to insist on righteousness and hope.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joshua Garraway, and I am the interim dean of HUC's Jack H. Skirball campus. There's going to be a lot of applause here because I'm going to be rattling off names pretty soon. Graduates, honorary degree recipients, my fellow faculty, governors, other processors, friends, everybody who is here, welcome to the 2024 graduation ceremony of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, Skirball campus. Today is a cause for celebration. That is why we are here. But I would like to begin this morning along the lines of my colleague, Professor Heller Stern, on a more serious note, by acknowledging that this past day in Israel, May 13th, has marked Yom HaZikaron, the solemn memorial day on which the fallen soldiers of Israel are commemorated. No doubt many of us are remembering friends or family who have fallen in defense of Israel. Others, though not touched personally by loss, are reflecting soberly on the human price that has been paid in creating and maintaining a Jewish state. Such reflection is all the more heartrending this year with Israel at war. But, as the Talmud recognized long ago, sometimes a wedding and a funeral occur on the same day. That's quite simply the messiness of life. Sadness and delight don't know to come on separate days. Indeed, as I'm sure our alumni honorees can attest after 25 years of service, and as our graduating students may already have learned, one of the great joys and challenges of being a Jewish leader is finding meaning in that messiness of life, and even more importantly, in helping others to do the same. So today, even as we mourn, we celebrate, rejoicing in the achievements of our graduates and honorees, and in our hopeful anticipation of what they will accomplish, be it in the first half of their careers or in the second. Before we proceed to our rejoicing, I would like to offer special thanks to my colleagues whose planning and hard work have made possible today's proceedings. Now, a lot of these might just sound like names as I'm going through them. All of them are actual people who have done amazing things to make this whole production happen. So first and foremost, in the back, in a bluish-white dress, is Yvette Jaffe. By day, she is our operations manager, and by night, and I really mean by night, that is to say, working through the night, produces this entire event, which has gone off swimmingly so far. Also, my boss, Joshua Holo, who is our Vice President of Academic Resources, and his assistant, Mary Roussan. Josh, unfortunately, is not able to be here because he is dealing with an illness in his family, so we wish Godspeed to him and his family. Ken Rosen, who I see in the back there with the newsboy hat, our Director of Student Life and Campus Culture. I don't see him, but I cannot say enough about Walter Jackson, our Director of Maintenance and Security. Most of you don't know this. There was a full-on flood in the building 2 hours ago, and everyone here is dry because of Walter Jackson and his crew. That includes Ricky Sims, Alston George, Jairo Cruz, Miguel Rosales, and Maria Rivas. Down here, I'm looking at 4 people that are staring at me from somewhere on planet Earth that is not here. I don't know how that's happening, but it happens because of our Director of IT, Andrew Durbin, and his team, Eric Ruiz and Edgar Rivera. I'd also like to thank, and I'm not sure I see her, our Coordinator of Graduate Education Programs, Lauren Rosenblum. Awesome. And our Senior Director of Recruitment at Admissions, the one who's responsible for getting all of these graduates here, Rabbi Adam Allenberg. We are grateful for the music that we have already heard this morning. Incidentally, music was my lead-off word in Wordle this morning. It's very lucrative. That's just a little bit of a hint. We are grateful for the musical ensemble, which is over there, featuring Cantor Sarah Haas, Cantor Lizzie Weiss, and tickling the electronic ivories, Elizabeth Yaron. The captioning and video transmission of the ceremony is made possible by the hard work of Dan Tater from Get Launched, and Lauren Schechter and Jackie Gutierrez from Total Caption, and the members of their teams. for this beautiful tent, which is keeping us dry from the flood inside the building, perhaps. We can thank Gabriel Fernandez at the team from Town and Country. I also want to thank, and I don't know if I see him here, Curtis Dahl, who is our photographer, who forces us to smile and stand up straight, but at the end of the day, we're happy because we look good on Instagram. I also want to thank the University of Southern California. We have been in very close communication with them, as you can imagine, over the last 2 weeks to ensure that our neighborhood is safe and this event is safe. I ran into Valencia in the back, who has no idea I'm going to mention her name, but she is from the Department of Public Safety over at USC, and we're grateful to have them as partners. Lastly, I would like to extend a welcome to the many leaders of the Hebrew Union College who are joining us today. President Andrew Rayfeld, whom I will be calling forward in a moment. We can applaud for the president. I realize we're getting tired, but there's going to be a lot of sitting in a few minutes. Rabbi Andrea Weiss, our provost. And Carrie Davidson, a member of our Board of Governors and the chair of HUC's Western Region Board of Advisors. Along with, and now I will mention a number of other governors who are with us. We'll hold our applause until I give some kind of flourish at the end. Paul Beck and Rochelle Ginsburg, who I'm not sure I see, but she's probably here, and Bernie Goler, and Sue Hochberg, and Rabbi Amy Perlin, and Marcy Zellico. We pause for a moment to recall the memory of beloved members of our community who can no longer join us. Most notably, this year, Rabbi David Ellenson, the former president of the Hebrew Union College, who passed away in December. Zichrono livracha, may his memory be for a blessing. If you are one of the few gathered here whose name I have not recited in the last 5 minutes, many of you will have your names recited in about a half an hour, but for the rest of you, please do not think that your contribution to what will transpire here today has gone unnoticed. You are the family and the friends and the teachers and the staff and the community leaders who have raised and supported and instructed and guided these graduates along their path. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate their hard work. It is now my privilege to call upon our president, Andrew Rayfeld, to deliver a charge to our students and to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Dean Garraway. I want to say, as you enter your trek into administration, I will share with you what one of our students said upon viewing the, what did you call it, the flood? There was a water leak inside. No, it is not a flood. HUC, at the cutting edge of design, has installed an indoor water feature. Ladies and gentlemen, those gathered here today, welcome to the graduation ceremonies of our 149th academic year, celebrating the accomplishments of the class of 5784, and honoring those graduates who have served with distinction for 25 years, giving not only of yourself, but of your families to this community. I, too, will begin with a prayer for the safe return of the hostages, now in over 200 days of captivity, on this Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day, that honors the brave men and women and people who all laid down their lives in service to Israel. A prayer for the recovery of those wounded in body and spirit. A prayer for the removal of Hamas and an end to the devastation and pain the suffering and innocent death that its barbarism has wrought throughout Israel and Gaza. And a prayer for those who govern the state of Israel, whose 76th year we will recognize and commemorate with a heavy heart tomorrow, beginning this evening and through tomorrow. That they steadfastly apply Jewish values that limit harm even in pursuit of legitimate objectives. As Nachmanides described of the Jewish limits on warfare, we are to learn to deal kindly even with our enemy. Despite this moment of such pain and anguish, we go on as planned with these events, as we did just in the days after October 7th, when we installed a visionary new director of our Debbie Friedman School of Sacred Music, Cantor Jill Abramson. In the weeks after October 7th, when we ordained the 127th, 8th, and 9th new Israeli Reform rabbis in Haifa, and in the months after October 7th, sustaining this institution, pleased to announce today the securing of two major gifts totaling almost $9 million to support HUC-JIR from Michael N. Goldberg, who has established the Michael N. Goldberg Rabbinical Scholarship Fund in memory of his wife, Ellen C. Goldberg of blessed memory, honoring her connection to HUC as clinical faculty and their shared commitment to the future of the Jewish people. And Annette Siegel, a leader in the LA Jewish community and friend of HUC-JIR for decades, who has established the Annette R. Siegel Professor of Education and Jewish Learning as a testament to her lifelong commitment to Jewish education instilled in her by her parents, and who is with us today. Annette and Michael, thank you so much for your investments. And our work continues up to the very day here today at our Lockheim School, where our faculty and staff, led by Professor Leah Hochman, have navigated the alarming rise of anti-Semitism and disruptive protests even on this college campus. We again insist on going forward. The campus protests illustrate a tension between openness and limit setting, between ensuring freedom of thought and expression even when it offends, but prohibiting harassment and threats of violence that goes well beyond offensive speech and impedes the ability of institutions to advance their educational mission does not fall under that tolerant bandwidth when it goes beyond offensive speech. But the question is raised: how does one have an open community and yet set limits for what is the behavior within? I am inspired by the work of Rabbi David Ellenson of blessed memory, who served as the 8th president and chancellor of HUC-JIR after serving as the director of this campus's Lockheim School of Judaic Studies, whose untimely death this past December we are mourning throughout the year. David studied the tension inherent in liberal Judaism between preserving Jewish tradition with strict boundaries on one side and the open, liberal, modern society in which it exists. It's the tension that created Reform Judaism and remains for all of us a tension today. One way to navigate the tension is to create barriers to entry, ensuring the purity of our community by refusing access to those who do not share all of our commitments. I want to say I once had that view. When I was 29 years old, a new parent, still in graduate school, I was on the board of KAM Isaiah Israel in Chicago, a Reform synagogue led by Rabbi Arnold Jacob Wolf of blessed memory. Rabbi Wolf taught me that the Reform movement's motto, choice through knowledge, was too focused on having choices and not enough focused on making them. And we are right now in that period, the period of the counting of the Omer, between our celebration of being freed from the oppression of slavery that we celebrated on Pesach, and the commemoration of our freedom that we are having our choice to make in accepting the commandments at Shavuot, which is coming up in just a few weeks. And so at a board meeting back in Chicago almost 30 years ago, I suggested we require that each member family of our congregation signed a binding commitment to attend Shabbat services twice a month, to engage in regular Torah study, to volunteer on the care committee, and I suggest that failing to meet these commitments, their membership would be terminated. Did I mention I was a sleep-deprived new parent? The idea went nowhere for good reasons. Is forced compliance really the way to encourage engagement in liberal society, even around the things we care so deeply about? And yet, there was a nagging truth behind the idea. For can any community really say it has expectations of its members without requiring and policing those requirements? The question is particularly important for us at Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. How others perceive the choices of Jewish leaders is often as important as the integrity behind the personal decisions they make. Recognizing that leadership development and clergy formation go beyond what you learn in the classroom, we articulate and hold up meaningful expectations of what we have for our students, that they adopt habits of Torah study that go beyond the classroom, that they adopt ritual practice that allows them to live a life of Jewish meaning throughout the year, to adhere to higher ethical standards for themselves and expect them of others, and to cultivate Ahavat Yisrael, a love of and commitment to the Jewish people and Israel. And we expect our rabbis and cantors to make a further commitment to maintaining a Jewish home and those with long-term partners a Jewish family, commitments we are proud of and that we reinforce and reaffirm. But with one exception that's now under review, we don't set prohibitions around these commitments and expectations. We rely instead on the power of liberal Jewish education in the academic study of Torah, text, history, and ideas. We rely on the exposure to the complexity of issues and the diversity of Jewish practice that makes up our communities. We rely on the demonstrated commitment of this institution to Israel and the Jewish people, and the role modeling and mentorship by our faculty and HUC and alumni in the field. We also have faith in our students, exhibited by those here who are celebrating their 25th year in service, to make responsible choices for the choices you have made, recognizing that we cannot control our students' choice and behavior once they leave seminary. As the Jewish world transforms quickly around us, we are now facing calls to adopt political litmus tests for our students by those unsettled by a new generation's views of Israel that may not comport with our own. And those calls are not surprising. For historically, at moments of societal transition, even liberal societies feel compelled to erect barriers in what usually is a vain hope that those barriers will be effective rather than drive the very behaviors and ideas and expectations we promote underground. But rather than bar students whose views and choices do not align with ours, I'd prefer we have confidence in them. I'd prefer we have confidence in our educational program and accomplished faculty to inspire good choices and behavior, including around our commitment to liberal Zionism in Israel. I'd prefer we have confidence in the aims of liberal Jewish education, confidence in our students who care enough about the Jewish people to want to be our community's leaders, to study at a liberal Jewish institution that for over 50 years has required a year of study in Israel, learning Jewish history, mastering Hebrew, and understanding Israel's complexity for our Jewish educators, rabbis, and cantors, and significant Israel education for those in the Zelikow School of Nonprofit Management. An institution that's committed to those principles of liberal Zionism, that defends the need for the protection of the Jewish people, for the flourishing of Jewish life, and demands that the exercise of state power is always limited by principles of democracy and human rights for all, whether in peacetime or in war. But it is true that without walls and barriers, some students might get through who make decisions or make statements and hold beliefs that are anathema to our values. That indeed is the tension with which we have to live as liberal Jews and as a liberal institution. As the Israeli political philosopher Yael Yuli Tamir has observed, quote, "If we wish to respect individuals as the authors of their own lives, we must accept that some of their choices will seem to us less valuable than others. And if we wish to accept our students and alumni as thoughtful leaders of the Jewish people and have confidence in the potential of liberal Jewish education and liberal Judaism, then we will have to accept that some of their choices will also seem to us less valuable than others. And I dare say they view some of our choices as less valuable as we believe they once were, and sometimes we will even come to agree with them. It's precisely at a moment when the complexity is lost that we need to celebrate the values of liberal education, pluralism, and openness to the very ideals of liberal Judaism and liberal Jewish education at the foundation of HUC-JIR. In such a moment, we celebrate our students' commitments and honor your achievements. We honor the sacrifice and commitment of our alumni, who, as I said, often put the needs of others ahead of your own and your families. As translators of Jewish tradition, you will and have inspired responsible choices by applying Jewish wisdom to the most pressing challenges of our world, and will so in the future. So let us celebrate today the contributions of our alumni still in their prime, the future of our graduates with their potential stretched out before them, and let us have confidence in the value of liberal education as drivers of Jewish education, engagement, and identity. May you all go from strength to strength and be inspired by the very acts of the 25-year graduates that we're honoring today. Everything okay? There's a little issue going on. Congratulations, everyone. Before I introduce our graduation speaker, I want to call to your attention the brochure that you have, the book that you have on your table, on your chairs. You are part of an institution that spans 2 continents, an international institution with global impact. And in this program, you will see how what you do here fits in with the totality. I hope that when you go from here, you will take this and read through the impressive work that's going on throughout the institution. But it's now my pleasure to introduce Janice Kaminer-Resnick, our graduation speaker and an esteemed alumna of the class of 1975 of what is now our Zelikow School of Jewish Communal Service, as it was then called the School of Jewish Communal Service. It is now called the Zelikow School of Jewish Nonprofit Management. Thank you, Marcy. Joyce received her BA and JD degree from UCLA, her dual degree MSW from USC, and Master's in Jewish Communal Service from HUC-JIR. During her early communal professional years, in 1975 to 79, she served in various leadership positions in the Jewish Federation Council of Greater Los Angeles, including as director of the Commission on Soviet Jewry and the United Jewish Welfare Fund campaign. Then, as a prominent attorney, she focused her law practice exclusively on real estate-based environmental law. Joyce's career exemplifies a fierce commitment to leadership. Sorry, Janet's career, thank you. I keep saying Joyce. Janice.
It's my second name.
It's your second name. Janice, Janice, Janice. Did I mention one of the great virtues of our students in our community is the charitability with which they teach even their leaders from these mistakes that we made. Janice, I'm so sorry. Debbie's career exemplifies fierce commitment to leadership through Jewish values and purpose. Her passionate focus on constitutional and human rights has guided her pioneering path. She's the co-founder and founding chairs of Jews United for Democracy and Justice, a community organization established in the wake of 2017 executive orders on immigration and refugees under the Trump administration. It is committed to, is deeply concerned about rising threats to our constitutional ideals of religious tolerance, equal rights, a free press, human dignity, and long-held norms of democracy and civil society. You can certainly applaud for that. I could continue reading with a page more of introduction, but I think it's far more important that you hear more from this accomplished leader, whether Debbie, Joyce, or most importantly, Janice Kaminer Resnick. She's the recipient of so many awards, including an honor today. Janice, thank you for coming and addressing our group.
I was very tempted to say, thank you, President Rayfield. Thank you, President Rayfield, rabbis, faculty, esteemed guests, and most importantly, our graduates. A tectonic shift refers to movements in one or more of the plates that make up the Earth's crust, causing catastrophic events on the Earth's surface, such as earthquakes and volcanoes. It has become abundantly clear that the unspeakable events of October 7th and all that has unfolded in its wake created a tectonic shift for Jews and Jewish life in Israel, in America, and around the world. It is those events which will shape the professional careers of today's graduates. The impact on Israel and Israelis is profound and indisputable, and on this Yom HaZikaron, we feel that impact even more keenly. But it is within the context of a traumatized American Jewish community that most of you, today's graduates, will be living and working. Let's start by looking at a few examples of the dramatic changes afoot. Consider Hillel, an organization known by most of you and one well known by me. My husband and I met at UCLA USC, 52 years ago, when it operated out of an old and rather shabby building shared with several other religious groups. Later, as an active layperson, I led the process of building our own building, which now stands across from the UCLA Faculty Center on Hillgard Avenue. Our goal as we embarked on that campaign a quarter of a century ago was to create a warm, friendly environment to entice more Jewish students to explore and deepen their Jewish identities. Mission accomplished. Our community built the building, and our rabbis and staff succeeded in bringing in students for the past 2 decades. Now, post-October 7th, our Hillel building is teeming with students, but not solely for the reasons we originally envisioned. Many are there because they are afraid to hang out elsewhere on campus. We never would have or could have envisioned Hillel as a bunker of sorts to escape campus violence targeting Jewish students. Here is another example of the tectonic shift. Previous acts of violence and hate against Jews or synagogues, such as in Poway or Pittsburgh, were seen by and large as isolated events wherein the perpetrators were fringe actors. And previously on college campuses, there was also an anti-Zionist voice, but their impact on Jewish campus life was relatively minimal. Today, on our university campuses, faculty and students are targeting Jewish students either because the Jewish students support Israel or because the students are presumed to support Israel and all of her policies. It seems that in many instances, the nuance and individuality of Jews are erased, leaving us frightened that we are reliving the trauma of Jews in ages past, when one Jew was no different from another, and all Jews were deemed to be members of the unpopular, despised, political or religious other of its time. As difficult and even shocking as it is to believe, the modern anti-Israel cause and rhetoric on university campuses has become a form of legitimate political expression. It is ironic that this ultra-popular so-called freedom movement was spawned by Hamas, which tolerates no free political expression from Palestinians and is an undeniable perpetrator of murder, rape, terror, and anti-Semitism. Rabbi Sharon Brous of the LA Synagogue Community IKAR aptly noted that on October 7th, the world turned upside down as what she described as a retrograde, regressive, totalitarian, misogynistic, messianic terrorist regime, at least for now, became the erstwhile darling of those who many of us thought of as decent Americans and fellow human rights activists. Our history is replete with times during which our people lived at sufferance. We have been enslaved because our loyalty was doubted. We have been banished from kingdoms because our religion was different. We have been expelled to seize our wealth. We have been murdered and scapegoated for ills which have plagued society. So the rhetoric and actions of American neo-Nazis and of Proud Boys are familiar to us. But now we are at a point in time where anti-Semitism from various directions and diverse societal and political factions is converging and putting American Jewish life into serious jeopardy. Post-October 7th, the movement against Zionism has broadened in many instances to becoming openly anti-Semitic. To be sure, there are some who would rather describe what is happening as expressions of criticism of Israeli policy, or at most as anti-Zionism. However, there is a great deal of evidence that this movement has, in many cases, transcended far beyond that narrower description. The anti-Zionist and indeed often anti-Semitic movement has gained not only legitimacy, but has also attained a certain elevated, heroic, almost righteous status. And that movement and its newfound prestige extends beyond college campuses into government bodies and councils at all levels. There are voices in the United States Congress who call Israel genocidal, and there are local school boards and small city councils for whom Israel is completely irrelevant to their work, but nevertheless is the subject of anti-Semitic rhetoric and passionate resolutions of condemnation. It is that shift in status, acceptability, and its pervasive and growing popularity which has created one of the most profound seismic shifts for American Jewry. And here is a final example which strikes a particularly painful note to me. 20 years ago, in response to the genocide in Darfur, the late, great Rabbi Harold M. Schulweis asked me to partner with him to create Jewish World Watch, a Jewish response to genocide, putting into action the post-Holocaust adage, never again. The mission of Jewish World Watch was based upon the teachings of Torah and to ensure that we are not repeating the sin of silence committed by most of the world during the Holocaust. With Rabbi Schulweis's moral clarity and deploying the community organization skills I learned here at HUC and at USC School of Social Work, the organization flourished. Jewish World Watch's mission captured the support of synagogues and churches with special appeal to high school and college students who were excited to engage in a significant global humanitarian cause as Jews. We established campus clubs across the United States to educate students on the genocides we were fighting, integrating Jewish values into our training. These students activated their campuses and helped make a meaningful impact in fighting genocide and serving its survivors. Aside from Darfur, we mobilized for the millions of women raped in the Democratic Republic of Congo, for the marginalized Muslim Uyghurs in China, for the Muslim Rohingya population in Burma, and for the millions of anti-Assad civilians being murdered in Syria. We spoke in hundreds, maybe thousands of venues to inspire anti-genocide activism. We traveled to many of these faraway, very scary places many times to lend moral support and pragmatic support on the ground with projects we helped to develop and fund for the benefit of survivors. With that background, you can imagine our shock and despair that after October 7th, our newsletter updates about the ongoing genocides and our projects have at times become the targets of hateful vitriol and accusations that as perpetrators of a genocide in Gaza, we have no standing or credibility to decry other genocides. Meanwhile, on campuses, as many Jewish students are harassed and accosted by protesters accusing them of being complicit in a genocide in Gaza, asking our students to speak out against genocide in Darfur or Burma or China has placed them in a dangerous and precarious position, making it impossible to currently continue our work. On October 12th, well before Israel's invasion of Gaza, there was an article by Gal Beckerman in The Atlantic in which he wrote, quote, "The people on my side," referring to those involved in activist human rights causes, "are supposed to recognize the common humanity of people in need. But I quickly saw that many could see what had happened only through established categories of colonized and colonizer, evil Israeli, righteous Palestinian, in templates made of concrete," close quote. The question is, how do we deal with this? Or more aptly, to your graduates, how will you deal with this? Since the 1950s, American Jewry has ridden a post-Holocaust wave of apparent safety and popularity. According to the many Pew Research studies conducted over the last many decades, America's Jews were repeatedly found to be the most admired religious group in America. We thrived. We were accepted, indeed admired. For non-Jews, marrying a Jew was by and large acceptable, even desirable. Not that anti-Semitism did not exist, but most would agree that anti-Semitism did not impact American Jewry's sense of security and safety in this country. During that time, thanks to the rabbis, educators, and Jewish communal workers, many of whom were and are graduates of this institution, countless novel Jewish community organizations and projects were created and then stewarded. It was an era of enormous creativity in American Jewish life. Synagogue life was reimagined, religious practices were reinvented, and Judaism flourished, from the Orthodox to those who created and embraced New Age Judaism and everything in between. Untold ways for American Jews to support Israel were developed. Further, during those decades, many organizations were founded using Jewish values to address a panoply of causes that were not uniquely Jewish. For example, the Coalition for the Environment and Jewish Life, fighting climate change, JQ International, working to create joyful and healthy lives for LGBTQ+ Jews, and one of which I am past board chair, Beit Teshuvah, providing a Torah-based program for addiction recovery for Jews and non-Jews alike. And as I already referenced, there's Jewish World Watch fighting genocide, and the other organization which the President referred to and which I co-founded and lead, Jews United for Democracy and Justice, providing a weekly virtual town hall to promote and preserve our American democracy and fight against authoritarianism. In a recent epic article about American Jewry, which appeared in The Atlantic, author Franklin Ford calls the last 75 years the golden age for Jews in America. And sadly, Ford starkly asserts that as of October 7th, that golden age is over. It may be too soon to know whether Ford is right or wrong, but what we do know is that this graduating class will face extraordinary and unique challenges as they embark on their careers. Now, a growing number of young Jews in our community are publicly raising questions that previously would only be whispered. They are asking out loud if they can embrace Judaism without embracing Israel. And even those who hold Israel and its promise as a core value for American Jewish life must deal with a world and our own American political landscape that increasingly sees Israel as a bad actor and seeks to make her a pariah. What is the foundational core of our post-October 7th Jewish identity? How will we grapple with our relationship with Israel and the divides within our community about Israel? What changes will be made to better educate our children about the complexities of Israel and her neighborhood? How do we teach our children and community to be critical thinkers and caring critics? How do we teach the lessons of our tradition, a tradition that invites responsibility for one another's conduct and allows careful challenge to Jews who are angry at or disillusioned with Israel, such that they draw closer to Israel rather than reject her? What will America's and American Jewry's relationship be with Israel going forward? Will our community meet the challenge of finding new ways to connect those disillusioned with Israel to embrace her, or perhaps a new way for American Jews to engage with or even meaningfully challenge and criticize Israel and her policies? And further, in this post-October 7th world, what does being a Jew mean in the public or civic sphere? Even as our community grapples with these complex internal Jewish identity issues, our Jewish community must also consider how to rebuild or reintegrate external civic relationships after feeling betrayed or abandoned by many of our traditional allies on domestic, civil, and political issues. These are just some of the critical questions which will be at the center of your careers as Jewish communal workers and Jewish educators. And sadly, that's not all. For the past 75 years, Israel was only one of the two foundational pillars of American Jewish communal identity and life. The second foundational pillar was the Holocaust. So while you will be dealing with the dramatic changes brought about by the events of October 7th, the second foundational pillar raises dramatic challenges for this generation as well. Since shortly after 1945, remembering the Holocaust has been central to our American Jewish organizations and our educational curricula. To those of my generation, it was our parents and grandparents who directly experienced the depth of that trauma. But now, for today's youngest Jewish generation, the Holocaust is a far-off, distant memory. It's a historical event that happened as many as 5 generations ago. To them, it may as well have happened to the Israelites who left slavery. The 6 million might be a symbol of survival, but not one which evokes the visceral emotional reaction it did to those of us raised in the aftermath of the Holocaust and whose parents and grandparents were survivors. It will be your challenge to ensure that the murder of 6 million Jews does not become an historical footnote for future generations of American Jews. It is important for our people to know our history and to honor the lives, culture, and memory of those who perished in the Shoah. As the Baal Shem Tov, who was known as the founder of Hasidic Judaism, said, "Forgetfulness leads to exile, while remembrance is the secret of redemption." And further, the lessons of the Holocaust transcend our own story. The lessons of the Holocaust go to the fabric of the well-being of our American society, a country founded on civil liberty, religious freedom, and courts committed to the rule of law, not the rule of an empowered party or person. In preparation for speaking to you today, I was thinking about the challenges which faced my graduating class of this school of Jewish communal, as it was known then, Jewish Communal Services, now of course the Zelikow School, 49 years ago when I embarked on my career. I remembered that then too, we as a community were in crisis. The late Jerry Bubas, founder of the School of Jewish Communal Services, now the Zelikow School, thanks Marcy, explained the crisis as existential, a crisis of the very continuity of the Jewish people. How would American Jewry, which was more or less free of the scourge of anti-Semitism, a community that was accepted so completely by American society, going to combat assimilation and intermarriage? There is an irony that the crisis confronting the field 50 years ago was born of the absence of anti-Semitism confronting American Jewry, while your class's crisis is born of the resurgence and emergence of new forms of anti-Semitism. So I will conclude where I began. A tectonic shift refers to movements in one or more of the plates that make up the Earth's crust. But one thing about the Earth's plates, they are always shifting, and the Earth, in the brilliance of creation, adapts and evolves. Similarly, as October 7th was a tectonic shift for our people, so too are those shifts endemic to the creation and evolution of the Jewish people. Ancient tectonic shifts, such as our exodus from Egypt, our gathering at Mount Sinai, our exile to Babylonia, our expulsion from Spain, and more contemporary shifts, such as the Holocaust, the establishment of the State of Israel, the Six-Day War, the exodus of millions of Soviet Jews from the Soviet Union, the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin, and of course, October 7th, are just a few of the monumental tectonic shifts our people has experienced, making us and Israel who and what we are today. Every generation has its challenges. And the challenges before you, the 2024 graduates of the Hebrew Union College, are substantial indeed. It is those challenges which will shape your mission and your service. You are ready, you are educated, and you are prepared. And most importantly, you are motivated. You are poised to address these challenges and contribute to the tapestry of the enduring, dynamic, and exciting story of our people. It is not just a story of survival. It is a story of a flourishing, resilient people with unique perspectives, values, and gifts to contribute to the world and its inhabitants. It is your turn to be at the center of writing our next chapter, a chapter in which you will imagine the ways to help American Jewry adapt to today's seismic circumstances and lead us forward. How exciting is that for us and for you? And we here today have no doubt that you can do this and that you will find strength in one another, and what you create will be great. I am confident, as I know everybody else here is too, in entrusting the future of the Jewish people To you, Mazal Tov, and may you go from strength to strength.
Thank you, Janice, for those moving and powerful and frankly very sobering remarks that I think very aptly describe the harrowing world that these leaders are going into. But you are not yet leaders. In order to be a graduate of the Hebrew Union College, you have to make it across the stage here and get a hood. Then you can go off into that world full of challenges and help to resolve them. So, it is with that I now call again upon President Rehfeld to join me for the presentation of alumni degrees. I invite this year's honorees in Doctor of Divinity, Doctor of Jewish Religious Education, and Doctor of Jewish Nonprofit Management to please rise and line up along the side of the stage. Gesture to stage left. It is my pleasure to invite to the lectern Rabbi Devorah Weisberg, Director of HUC-JIR's Rabbinical School, to hood our School of Rabbinical Studies alumni honorees. All right, first, can people hear me if I'm enough? Okay, Rabbi Scott Hausman Weiss. Congratulations. Rabbi Moshe Hein. Rabbi Jonathan Franklin Kupetz. And Rabbi Jessica Spitalnik-Mates. And it is now my pleasure to invite to the lectern Dr. Miriam Heller-Stern, National Director of the School of Education, to hood our School of Education alumni honorees. Ellen Cindy Lefkowitz. Deborah Sagan Massey. Renee Rubin Ross. And it is now my pleasure to invite to the lectern Rabbi Shirley Idelson, Director of the Zelikow School of Nonprofit Management, to recognize our School of Jewish Nonprofit Management alumni honorees. Ready? Robin N. Altman. Rachel Chertkoff. And Sarah Green. Now, this next part, when I graduated from college, they did in Latin. I think we should rewrite it in Aramaic for the next year's graduation. But I'm not going to do that now. This is the formal declaration that the students who are about to receive degrees have actually earned their degrees. So, President Rayfeld and Governor Zelikow, it is my great pleasure to inform you that the students participating in today's graduation ceremonies have, to the satisfaction of the faculty and administration, completed the requirements for their various degrees. I now call upon Shirley Idelson, Director of the Zelikow School of Jewish Nonprofit Management, and Mandy Richardson, Associate Director of the Zelikow School of Jewish Nonprofit Management, to present the candidates for the Master of Arts in Jewish Nonprofit Management and Master of Science in Organizational Leadership and Innovation. Candidates, please rise and line up along the side of the stage. You got the names. Take it away.
Thank you. And our first one's on Zoom. Yeah. It is my pleasure to present the candidates for the degree of Master of Arts in Jewish Nonprofit Management. And our first candidate is on Zoom, Mickey Rachel Benson. Here we go. Olivia Esther Bernheimer. There we go.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Abby Sarah Gore.
Here we go. You're welcome.
Talia Michal Israel.
You did it. Yeah, thank you.
Micah Victor Cohen Salas. Barry Rose Siegel. Jared Matthew Stern. And Megan Elizabeth Steron. Okay, it is my pleasure to announce the names of the recipients for the degree of Master of Science in Organizational Leadership and Innovation, who already received their diplomas in August 2023. Joy Linda Allen. Our second candidate is coming in on Zoom from Belarus, Irina Belskaya. Vivian Claire Brawley. Next, Nicole N. Erdfrocht, who couldn't be here today, but I wanted to make sure that we announced her name publicly. Emily Simons. Melina Ajisi Sternberg.
Crying already.
Your diploma now. And Sumiko Ruiz Zion.
I don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that.
Thank you for everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It is now my pleasure to present, I will be presenting someone in a moment. It is now my pleasure to present by calling up to the lectern Dr. Miriam Heller Stern, Vice Provost for Educational Strategy and National Director for the School of Education, and Rabbi Dr. Laura Novak Weiner, Director, Master of Educational Leadership Program, and Dr. Lauren Applebaum, Director of DELET, to present the candidates for the Master of Educational Leadership, the Master of Arts in Jewish Learning, and the Master of Arts in Teaching. Candidates, please rise and line up along the side of the stage.
I'm honored and delighted to present the candidates for the degree of Master of Educational Leadership. Alana Beam. Rebecca Marcus. It is my pleasure to present the candidate for 2 degrees, Master of Educational Leadership and Master of Arts in Jewish Learning, Abraham Julius Kaplan. It is my honor to present the candidates for the degree of Master of Arts in Teaching. Hillary Elizabeth Chesler. Allison Paige Elbaz.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Gina Levin. Valeria Escaré Nevarez. Eden Pukiu.
So much.
Amanda Rose Sable.
Thank you.
Stephanie Beth Shearer. Madeline N. Steckley. And Christine F. Wedner.
It is now my privilege to call upon Rabbi Dr. Devorah Weisberg, Director of HUC JIR's Rabbinical School, to present the candidates for Master of Arts in Hebrew Letters.
I'm honored to present the candidates for the degree of Master of Arts in Hebrew Letters, Paige A. Beam. Alyssa Rose Schwartz-Fagelson. Julie May Fishbach.
I gotta get one of those things that the elementary school teachers have. Thank you. Where you like push a button for a hug, handshake. Okay, right.
On the Zoom screen, where I will be unable to see her, but you will, Elizabeth Frankel. Oh, that's right. Tori Green.
Thank you so much.
Leah Rose Julian. Alyssa Brooke Carpel. Julia Y. Knobloch. Shoshana Jordan Levine. Also on Zoom, where I am now told I can see her, Sarah Rachel Lifshitz. Rebecca Orantes. Unable to be with us today, Jake Alexander Petzold. Hannah Pomerantz. Erica Purdy Patrick.
Last one.
My synagogue had these little stickers over the last year. You could get one that said, "I'm ready for hugs," or "I'm still not ready for hugs because of COVID," and I tried to get one of these, "Still not ready for hugs," but I think I lost the sticker. I don't know what happened. Yeah, okay. I now call upon Dr. Leah Hochman, Director of the Jerome H. Lockheim School for Judaic Studies, to celebrate the graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in Jewish Studies, a Jewish Studies major from the University of Southern California.
It's a great honor to acknowledge and to celebrate our one lone Jewish Studies major who bravely walked across the stage on Friday with Jewish Studies blazoned beneath her name. Angela Marie Hernandez, who unfortunately is unable to join us today, but has a certificate with her name and will join the Jewish Trojans for the rest of her life and will join us, I think, in some future capacity as a Jewish leader. Angela.
I've always worried that we don't do right by our student speaker. We have the dean speak, and the president speak, and the speaker speak, and then we do all the graduate degrees, and people are ready to go over and have those drinks, or go out to go lunch, or go bowling, whatever it is you do to celebrate. And everyone's like, oh, there's one more speaker. And it's the most important one. It's the student perspective that will tell us about everything that she has learned and plans to do, all in 5 minutes or less. We have an amazing student. I taught her 2 summers ago. We had a special 1-hour conversation after that, and I got to know her much better. And then, the cherry on top, she sent me a thank you note in the mail. And I have a little file with all the thank you notes I've ever gotten from students, and I read it whenever I'm depressed. I call it my Prozac file. And the thank you note from Abby Sarah Gore is there, so please come on up.
In the 3rd chapter of Kohelet, we read the oft-quoted verses about there being a time for everything. There's a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to be silent and a time to speak, among others. Over these past few years, as students, in our workplaces, and as humans, we have known these times and lived these experiences. Pertinent to our lives, Yehuda Amichai shares a different interpretation of the relationship between these life experiences in his poem, A Man in His Life. He writes, "A man needs to love and to hate at the same moment, to laugh and cry with the same eyes, with the same hands to throw stones and to gather them, to make love in war and war in love, and to hate and forgive and remember and forget, to arrange and confuse, to eat and digest what history takes years and years to do." Our experiences are intertwined. Our past is not isolated into neat boxes that carry a single emotion or purpose. Rather, we bring our whole selves, our past, our present, and our future, into every life adventure. We bring memories of joy we've known, mistakes we've made, lessons we've learned, heartache we've endured, and interactions that have shaped us. In our lives, we encounter polarities, 2 opposing forces that contrast each other, thus giving each other meaning. A polarity from the beginning of our tradition is peilut and menucha, activity and rest. the model that God established where God created, worked, and acted for 6 days and ceased on the seventh day, has influenced the calendar we live by as Jews, individually and collectively as Klal Yisrael, including the structure of the week culminating with Shabbat. We learn in the Babylonian Talmud that if you take on too much, you have taken on nothing. Rest protects us from reaching our breaking point. My fellow graduates and I are inspired by our tradition. We strive to act, to change our communities and our world, to engage, to teach, and to learn. I invite us, too, to pour our energy into the other side of that spectrum. How can we rest meaningfully in ways that recharge us, heal us, and renew us so that we can bring our best selves as we engage in the work that calls and inspires us? Another polarity we experience is Shvira and Shleimut, brokenness and wholeness. Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotzka taught that there is nothing more whole than a broken heart. In 2024, we are well into our 4th year of living in a world altered by the pandemic. We live in heartbreak and fear over the Israel-Hamas war, and we encounter communal, societal, and global challenges daily. Our broken hearts mean that we care deeply and have potential to heal together and experience joy. On the HUC JDC Entwine trip to India last December, amidst pain as we looked at posters of the kidnapped hostages in the pews, I experienced so much wholeness as we sang in Indian sanctuaries, breathing life into these historic buildings and linking our Judaism to theirs across miles, millennia, and melodies. Experiencing brokenness gives deepened meaning to the moments that we feel whole, and our knowledge of wholeness helps us recognize when we feel broken. When we finish reading a book of Torah, we recite the words Chazak, Chazak, v'nit chazek. Be strong, and we will be strengthened. Personal strength and the strength of the community are intertwined. The individual and the collective is a polarity. The collective informs and molds individuals, and individuals define and create the collective. Over these past few years, my peers and I have relied on each other and have worked in partnership with our professors to learn, grow, problem solve, and envision the Jewish communal world that we hope to pass down to the next generation. We have built each other up and uplifted each person's skills and strengths to be strong as a cohort. The journey has also been deeply personal for each of us, navigating jobs, families, classes, and life cycle events, while some of us were hundreds of miles away from our classmates and physical campus. As this part of our journey comes to a close and we continue on our paths, it is my hope for my fellow graduates that we exude strength individually and collectively, quietly and assertively, and when it is easy and when it is hard. May we fill our days with work and community that inspires us, and may we restore our souls with rest. May the brokenness in our world call us to action, and may we experience profound joy. Ken Yehi Ratzon.
We have one more order of business because all of these hoods mean nothing until a governor comes up and says that they mean something. So, to present the historic Aramaic formulation conferring these degrees, I call upon Marcy Zelikow, co-chair, of the Institutional Advancement Committee of the Board of Governors. She will confirm these degrees.
I actually know no Aramaic. I barely know any Hebrew because I'm a good Reformed Jew. But, graduates, consider yourself confirmed. Would you like to come home with me tonight and just cheer like this? I like it. I like applause at all times, right, Morris? Morris knows this. Morris Panis. Hello, Rabbi. Good to see you. We have all streams here today. So, on behalf of the Board of Governors of Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, it is my pleasure to congratulate all of our graduates and honorees today. So when I look out at all of you and your families and all of your loved ones that are gathered here today, you cannot believe all the pride I see in the faces looking back at me, and how proud everybody here should be. You have chosen a life of service to the Jewish people and your communities. You've chosen to do so at a time of great upheaval in the Jewish world. Now more than ever, we need leaders like you to take us forward into the Jewish future. The Jewish community of tomorrow isn't going to look like the Jewish community of the past. American Jews have never had more opportunities, and yet, at the same time, we seem to be confronting new challenges at every turn. You have become Jewish professionals and will lead our institutions and organizations. Under your leadership, these organizations will thrive and meet these challenges. You know, I meet people every day who are deeply depressed about the state of the liberal Jewish world. They look at all the problems we face: decreasing affiliation, stagnant institutions, young people disengaging from Israel and protesting all the time. You know the list. And yet, I personally remain wildly optimistic about the Jewish future each year, and it's because I attend this ceremony and look at all of you and look at all of your faces. So I know we're in great hands. The faculty, staff, and board of HUC are so proud of you and all you've accomplished in your time here, and we know you will go on to do wonderful things. Please remember, you'll always be a part of us. You belong to us. Stay in touch. Be connected. But most important, go forth and lead the Jewish people. Thank you.
After we now conclude our graduation ceremony with a benediction, we ask that you wait for those on the stage and those in our first rows to recess from the tent before joining us for photos and well-deserved congratulations. Please rise. In an article entitled Mixed Blessings, HUC JIR Bible professor Dr. Adrian Levine observes that the noun bracha appears almost exclusively in two books of the Torah, Genesis and Deuteronomy. Noting that blessings frame at the beginning and the end of our sacred story, Dr. Levine teaches, in moments of transition and flux, we need blessings to strengthen us for what lies ahead. At this time of transition for our graduates, at this milestone moment for our honorary degree recipients, At this harrowing, heartbreaking juncture in the history of our people, Israel, and the wider world, may blessings strengthen each of us for what lies ahead. In the words of the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, Baruch atah b'voecha uvaruch atah b'tzeitecha. May you be blessed in your comings, and may you be blessed in your goings. With deep gratitude, we celebrate those who have come to the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion to learn. With high expectations, we applaud those who will go forth to a life of sacred service, a life of teaching and learning, a life committed to community and the pursuit of justice and peace. As our commencement ceremony concludes on this day of memory, Yom HaZikaron, we look upwards for help and protection. We turn toward one another for support and love. Adonai yishmor tzeitenu uvoenu me'atah ve'ad olam. May God guard our going and our coming from now and forevermore. And let us say, Amen and Mazel Tov.